before you get started, could I ask that the minutes for 4/11 be tabled until the next meeting?
Motion to table the minutes of April 11th until the next regular meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Do you have anyone signed up for open forum? Would anyone like to sign up for open forum? Okay, motion, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor? Mr. Burr?
Yes, resignation, middle school math teacher, Luann Massey. Yeah, also, there is a correspondence from Rhode Island Public Radio. It's regarding a tower to place on top of the high school. I gave that to the committee because one of the representatives reached out to Mr. Booth, and we asked they send us a proposal, and we would tell them whether or not we wanted to pursue it. So I just gave it to you for
Okay.
And I know that
consideration.
the fire department was interested too and speaking to you about it.
I haven't spoken to the fire department
No, but
about it.
they're
Okay.
interested.
And so we're waiting for the response from Rhode Island Public Radio?
No, I just gave it to you. If you want us to put it on the, I would recommend if you would like,
Put it on the next one.
Put it on the
I
next
will-
agenda.
put
Sorry.
it on the next agenda
Okay.
to seek permission to engage them.
Okay,
Thank you.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Just keep in mind, they want to put it on our roof.
Yeah, I read that.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
It's more than one roof though, isn't it?
We'll talk about it when
Yeah,
it's,
okay, because I was reading.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Booth.
okay. Old business?
We just have the budget again as a standing item. We don't have anything new to report regarding our budget.
Okay.
Other than it might not be on.
I didn't know how to handle that, so this is just.
Budget.
Okay, you guys probably could speak to it better than I could since you've been,
Okay, so yeah, I
Point.
believe this is covered under the agenda item, yeah. So at our last meeting, we took a motion to reconsider placing an optional budget on the ballot for the financial town referendum on May 20th. That was driven by advice from the town solicitor to the town council, not directly to us, that we were not able to adjust our budget number if we chose to submit an optional budget. And we had, in the previous meeting, voted to submit a $45,000 lower figure as the school committee's optional budget. Under the charter, that budget would not require any elector signatures. So we took the motion to reconsider and withdrew that decision at our last meeting. And Mrs. Black and I then chose to pursue a petitioner's budget to represent, again, what we thought was the intention of the school committee of a optional budget of $45,000 less than our original proposal. A charter complaint has been filed against us by Mr. Katz, alleging that the petitioner's budget was not properly executed. We have been before the Board of Canvassers this afternoon, who have continued their meeting until Thursday at 5 o'clock. The reason for that is that the town solicitor, who had rendered an opinion regarding the petitioner's budget, which frankly I believe was incorrect and not based on the available facts, was not present at that meeting. And so they have continued that till Thursday at 5 o'clock at the town hall, when hopefully the solicitor will be present to give additional support for his opinion.
The bottom line being, if the alternate budget number 2, does not go on, the schools will get $1
Over last year's budget.
over last year's budget.
Correct.
Because Mr. Katz is saying it's invalid, there will be no choice. One person will go and vote for budget 1, that's all it needs, it will pass, it will be the budget, and we will get $1. which
That
will
is-
be a $243,186,000 cut.
So, and that is the update
where
on the
we
budget.
are.
Correct.
So Dr. Larkin and I were there today to testify at the Board of Canvassers, and we told the story that he just said to you, which we had all intentions of going forth with a school committee budget, which would have been no signatures. We just go right along. And then our solicitor was here, and he said, if the town solicitor said it might not be legal, don't take a chance, because then you'll have no budget, which might be where we end up again. So we talked about how we went in on Monday. That was the first day you could go in. Randy LeBeau and Joan Shabbat joined us, and we said, what do we have to do? He said, sign here, do this, do that. Take your papers, go get them signed, 50 signatures, bring them back. Don't wait till the last minute. So we did everything they said. We brought them back right away. They certified them all. This was Monday. Now, the deadline was Saturday, and so we gave it plenty of time. We didn't want go. If we had gone at 11:45 on Saturday and it wasn't right, I'd say that's our fault. But we gave, if there was anything wrong, a phone call should have been made, like at the registry when they said you forgot your aunt and uncle's signature or blood type or something. So that's what I would think. Somebody would have let us know you need this extra piece of information. No one said anything. We would have gone down with it, emailed it. I would have been there at midnight. I was there when they did their budget. It took till almost 11 o'clock to finish it. They had till midnight. So somebody saying we had to have it at 12 noon, all these different things. But my point is we went in good faith and got those signatures, brought them back, and thought we had an alternate budget to give the people of Tiverton a choice of one budget or the other, and would go out and talk about it. And when you get signatures, it's not just a knock on the door. It's at the kitchen table, and they're asking you all the questions, and you're answering everybody. It's really... So anyway, that's what we did, and we testified today that in good faith we got those signatures. We didn't think there was anything wrong. No one said there was anything wrong till 2 minutes past 12 on Saturday when someone filed a complaint. So that's kind of like a gotcha, like somebody said today. So that's where we are. Thank you.
It might also be noted that actually there is a charter review commission, and this is relevant to the topic because there's a lot of ambiguity in the budget. There's a lot of ambiguity in the budget. There's a lot of ambiguity in the charter until you decide you know what it means. And if you decide that you know what it means, then the ambiguity fades away and you are blessed with certitude. So,
Now, just to go back for a minute,
we
when
have
that
it.
was all being made, that new FTR, when we reviewed it and our lawyer reviewed it, we voted against it as a school committee, not because we didn't want a referendum, but because of all the things that could go wrong as they are right now. And we said there's too many things, like what if the school committee just puts a budget on and it passes and then the town doesn't have a budget, all those kind of questions that weren't answered. And so it's coming to fruition right now. And so the Charter Review Commission is going to be very important. Thank
correct.
you. Okay.
Okay. Update on middle school and high school renovations. Mr. Burek?
Yes, the building committee had a meeting last night right here in the library, and Mr. DeQuattro from RGB Architects is here to update the school committee regarding the schedule and some changes that have occurred since our last update.
Okay. And just for clarification, Mr. DeQuattro represents RGB Architects. They worked with us through the facility study, through the evaluation of the study, through the bonding process, and have now agreed to work with us through the renovation process as well.
And before Dave begins, I presented to you an updated timeline for the work schedule. We talked about it at last night's meeting. After this meeting's over, I'll be sending it to the building committee, but that's the document that you have in front of you, and Dave may refer to it when he speaks to you.
So welcome again, Mr. DeQuattro. You've been working with us for 2 years. I note that as there were some statements that were really accusations about how long we have been engaged together, and it's been quite a while. So thank you.
So the last time, and this is a typical thing I'm going to talk about now, it's what we call design development. When you look at products, look at conditions, and you develop your drawings based on the conditions and the scenarios that exist, both locally in this school, but also regionally, both in southeastern Mass and Rhode Island for markets, and you put it all together. So what does that mean? So in front of you, you have two documents. One's a meeting minute with RIDE, and the other one is a schedule. So the meeting minute with RIDE is everything that we want to do, we have to go in front of RIDE, then approve it, and they get their comments. And the non-approval comments are just comments going back and forth, so we kind of weigh and vote together. So that's, those meeting minutes are reflecting of that. What we wanted to do last time I had spoken to everyone is to pre-order some of the materials, boilers and whatnot, because of the lead time, factor on some of those things. In essence, we would keep them in our inventory, and the contractor would be able to start construction almost immediately after the bids are complete. Then they would use those boilers and then stop the work early on. Typically, boilers or unit ventilators have a lead time. No one keeps them on the shelves because they're all individually made. And those lead times can run 6 to 8 weeks. And summertime construction, like a lot of schools are doing right now, you only have 12 or 14 weeks. So half of that's taken up in ordering a component, usually pushes things out. What we did is, in the last couple of weeks, is as our engineers have been working towards developing systems and understanding the capacity of systems, and how many, for example, how many boilers you have now versus how many you need and why and whatnot. We've also been talking to some subcontractors that have been performing work in other schools, in other districts in the past that are similar to this in nature of when they were built. Systems that are here now, the pneumatic control systems. A pneumatic control system is kind of an old vacuum system, so it works on air, positive air, negative air. Once those vacuum systems that are made of plastic have an air in them, they don't work anymore. That's why teachers can't control the temperatures in their room right now, because when they go down and either stop the suction or ask for more suction for them to work, the air leaks out of them. The new systems have digital systems now, so they don't break like the old ones do and rely on age as much. They still break, things do break, they're humanly made, but they're more accurate and they're identifiable. Additionally, what we're looking for is energy efficiency. So with that, our engineer found a unit ventilator that had what we call a heat exhaust reel or a heat evacuation reel. What that does is it takes the heat from that unit ventilator and absorbs it and uses it and saves energy, so that the boiler doesn't have to work as hard. What does that mean? It means a smaller boiler, less boilers, less cost. So we're doing that all at the same time as meeting with these subcontractors to find out not only what the workload out there is, the lead time of equipment and an order. And that's what we generated is this is a schedule. So if you look from last month, they've changed it slightly. And what we wanted to do last month was divide up into two bids, in essence, do the roof out of the middle school first, which was a little easier than the high school, and then followed by the high school and boilers the second. Now we've moved that because of the amount of new exhaust fans that aren't needed. Right now on top of the middle school, you have those exhaust fans. If you look out the window, they look like little mushrooms on top of the roof. Those will be eliminated as a result of these new unit ventilators that will handle that capacity now. So instead of that being ducted back to the roof, you can eliminate it. But what you don't want to do is put a brand new roof up, and then next year change the exhaust fans, and then put a patch in the new roof. So you want to keep all the new roofs new. So in essence, what we plan on doing now is that you would go out for miscellaneous repairs. If everyone looks out the window, they'll see the stucco there that exists is all staining. That's actually in good condition. It's just staining. Some of the other conditions is when the stucco deteriorates and buckles, moves and the floor is apart. So some of that work has to be done. A lot of masonry restoration has to be done around the chimneys, around all the flashing where the roof goes. And of course, you have asbestos in your boilers and some of your pipes. So we're going to be working on those systems this summer. And then we're going to be looking at ordering all the equipment through the winter time, so that when the boilers go offline in March, we'll have boilers there, we'll have unit ventilators, all the equipment over here, and we'll be able to start work in March. Now, what that does is that in essence, you're hiring one general contractor to run this, and you're buying equipment that you're going to be using next year at this year's price. So we're hoping to beat the inflation of that equipment and then them storing it. So it'll look like this summer, the work that'll go on now will be masonry restoration. It'll be asbestos and ordering materials that are around the components of the two schools. When the heating season ends in mid-March, all the equipment will be ordered. At that time, you'll see new boilers being placed in the boiler room. Still when kids are in school, but they'll be located in the boiler room for that. As soon as the kids get out of school, then the systems and controls will be changed at that time. So controls are the wires that run throughout one classroom to the other, and they get wired into those unit ventilators. Unit ventilators that exist now will be taken off, and new unit ventilators will be put back in. So that by mid-summer, you'll have controls and boilers working. At that time, roofs will be also being underway. Roofs will be done the following fall. That work will be done. So we're hoping to get all work done by August of 2018. So it's a little change in the schedule. So we think through this latest change in talking to these subs that have done the work, you don't want to be put into a bind where the kids are trying to come back to school and you A, don't have heat, or B, you have to have people working in the school at the same time that children are occupying these classrooms. So it may sound a little confusing to some. If you have any questions, I can answer this question.
So if I can just gloss what you've told us, that between now and late spring of next year, we'll be doing a lot of preliminary work and some abatement, and then beginning in the late spring, installing the preliminary parts of the heating system, which will then be completed over the summer at the same time that the roofs are being done in the summer of 2018.
Correct. There will be work going on that there may not be guys that were handled, but there'll be work going on where boilers are being submitted, switched out, ordered, or whatnot. Asbestos has to be taken out of the boilers. So those controls, we tried different options. We tried putting boilers in first, and then when we looked at the control system, they were pretty bad. There was nothing really salvageable. None of them were working. So you could have new boilers and the whole controls, and there'd be no difference. You still wouldn't have heat in classrooms. We looked at the other way by putting controls in now and waiting for boilers later, and then you would not do that in the time frame of the summer.
It was also discussed that by putting the boilers in first, and the old system would create leaks throughout the system, would create additional pressure, and we don't know where the leaks could happen, because they could happen anywhere. So that was one of the key things that we talked about in the building committee, and also the roof issue, because of the engineers look further into how the air moves around and all that, is that we have 30, I think, plus of those mushroom things at the middle school. So if we were to do it this summer, then next summer we'd be cutting into the roof just to get rid of those things. So it made no sense.
Put the heating system
because
in
of
first before.
the way the heating system is configured, it was deemed better to do it this way.
Right.
So I have some other news, good news, I guess, is that we're trying for high volume, low speed fans in the gymnasium. We're going to install those. Those will be done this summer.
Oh, okay.
Those
That's good.
type of things that are added on, things that can be added on without.
Can we do it before graduation in this June?
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately not. What I'd like the school committee to approve tonight is we're going to try to pre-qualify contractors, and the other one is an asbestos contractor. We'd like to get them in line too. So when you pre-qualify a contractor, you don't select one, but you pre-qualify them in a way where they have a bonding capacity, they have the right insurances, they have a history of doing these projects, which you don't want to get as a general contractor on board that then goes out of business, fails to pay his subs, and that can collapse the job.
Unfortunately.
Litigation, that they get done in 2 years as opposed to 1 year.
No, what we have for this meeting is just, that's item 8A under new business, is the qualifications. We're going to come back to you on the 9th with the
the rest
request to
of it?
go out to bid for the abatement. Because the building committee, I think we still needed to talk about that one. So for tonight, if you could take out an order, because
Yeah.
we could just do it right now. If
I'll
you
make
do
a motion
8A,
to move up 8A, please.
All those in favor?
Sorry.
because what will
Okay, as long
happen,
as you're here.
because what will happen now is RGB will send out, they'll do all the legwork of qualifying the people. And then once they're, I don't want to say approved because they don't approve, but once they're comfortable with the number of companies, then we'll come back to the committee
bid.
and ask for permission to bid for a GC.
Right. And this is for the general contractor and for the asbestos work.
This is
Which is
just-
separate.
This is for just to get the
Pre-qualification,
construction, the
right.
pre-qualification. Each will be separate. The
Right.
abatement will be at our next meeting, and then probably the end of May, we'll be seeking permission from the committee to go seek a bid for a GC, excuse me.
Can I ask a sort of silly question as a non-contract building person? When you say that it's the end of the heating season, so the heating system goes offline, does that mean that there is no hot water and no heating capacity in the schools whatsoever?
Right now, well, first of all, these boilers are probably 100% overcapacitated. I noticed they were designed to be over what you need. You could take one boiler down, take it away, and then still heat the school.
Okay.
So with the boiler systems you have now, you also have a hot water tank that also heats the hot water. So we would be replacing that. So that can be replaced early and easy.
Yeah, that's what we use in the summer. We use the hot water tank only, so we don't have to heat the whole building.
Okay.
So that would be replaced. Probably this summer we'll be doing that stuff. That's what I call pretty minor. It's on and off over a weekend. You put
All
it
right.
in like you would your house.
Well, I'm just speculating about what potential disruption there might be to the kind of occupants of the building. They were wondering, why is there no hot water?
The only disruption would be, I would say if you had a cold snap at the end of March that needed heat, and you may not have the heat.
Has that ever happened?
Yeah, it happened yesterday.
So that could happen, but
Yeah.
that would be the only thing that could happen. That would be, a couple of days that you could do it. Or you could push out to April 1st to do it that way.
Yeah. I would wonder about that, actually, given that we are in New England, close to the coast.
I can't predict that.
Yeah.
But that, again, that's something we
think we need
obviously
to
have to work on.
strategize.
And strategize as we
Order the
get
warm
closer.
weather.
Yeah, again, I'd probably be more comfortable in April than
Yeah.
March, but that's something we
Well,
still need.
I guess my point is, I don't want to be in a position of shutting down the schools because we don't have heat
Yeah, I mean, the
in March.
both the beauty part and the unfortunate part of our renovation projects is things
Yep.
change
Yep.
quite often, quite frequently. So we'll be on top of it. We'll be reporting back to that building committee. We have a standing meeting almost every month. We'll be coming back to the school committee. So there'll be no surprises. This schedule is something that's indicative of the design process. Once
Yep.
you go through construction, you have a construction process. And with those construction processes, we've got it all out to make sure those things are happening. If it's an extremely cold winter, then obviously it may be late April. If
Right.
it was like a few years ago. But those shouldn't be a problem because the biggest thing, like I said earlier, was the lead time and all that stuff would be on board.
Right.
And we'll get the time anyway.
Okay.
Can you just, and again, the advantage of the general contractor is that they're responsible for getting all the subs.
Right.
So, and getting them, we would know when they bid on the job who their subs are, and that also plays into,
Right.
who gets awarded the contract.
Right.
As opposed to splitting the job up into two separate GCs maybe.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion that we allow RGB Architects to advertise for requests for qualifications for a general contractor.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions from anybody in the public? So before we take a vote, I'd just like to thank some of the volunteers that are on the committee, Mrs. Zimick, Mr. Odell, Mrs. Levesque, Mr. Perry. I don't think Mr. Mendez comes, Ms. Fiore, Mr. Rierick, Mr. Ashley, and Mrs. Mitchell, Dr. Mitchell. So, did I miss anybody?
I think that's it. It's a tight group.
Mrs. Black.
And the alternate, if you're sick.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 4-0. Any other questions, Mrs. Pavo, Mrs. Black, Ms. Balish? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
All right. Update on
Nope,
that's-
communications
just did that.
arrived.
Update on high-risk,
No.
high-risk school seniors.
I'm sorry, yep.
Update on at-risk
Yeah.
high school seniors.
Mr. Chris, you want to speak? Just one ahead.
Yep.
So, thank you. So, before I get into some specifics on our cohort of 38 students we have originally identified, I do want to thank the teachers that are here, but all the teachers and the guidance staff in particular. We really, I'll talk briefly about how we really came together as a real school team to support, obviously, all the students, but we really identified this as a target area. So, we had originally identified 38 seniors who were at jeopardy. And we deemed that jeopardy is potentially failing or actually failing one or more classes. And so the good news is that through the efforts that I'll talk about in a moment, we are seeing progress. However, I'm not satisfied, and neither is the team at the high school, in that unfortunately right now I can't say with confidence that all 38 are in great place. I'll talk more about that specifically. So in terms of some of the supports that we've been putting in place, going back a few months, really all the way back to the fall when the guidance council started identifying these students, obviously with their daily check-ins, and then started following up with letters home, with report cards saying, okay, we're concerned here right after quarter 1, and want us to look at this. And then that ramped up during the winter when we started calling the parents in and having meetings with administrators, the counselor, the student, the parent, the guardian to say, okay, we have time here, but we're really concerned. This is not necessarily guaranteed, but what else do you need? What support do you need? And one piece that I'm happy to report that we have seen lots of progress is with through the support of the school committee and central administration, is with the after-school and the in-school tutoring support in particular. And so what most recently, during the last few weeks, we've been doing is meeting with the students and scheduling for the in-school tutoring support, and then also the after-school piece. And very often when we're having our conversations with these seniors, I'll ask them, do you know why we're at this point now where we feel like we're taking you out of this study and we're putting you in this? And most of them are pretty honest. One thing about teenagers is they get it at this point. They say, well, yeah, I haven't really been putting in the effort that I think I need to put in. And so they're not really happy, they're not excited about it, and they kind of appreciate what I have one student say, well, I'm kind of glad that you called me in here to talk to me about this. I probably would have done this, but I do see why I need to do this. At the same time, we haven't had that productive of a conversation with all of the seniors. We're still working with all of them, but that some of the statistics with these 38, we've kind of broken it down into 3 tiers now. So the first tier is approximately 12 students have shown really significant growth. We're really pleased with them. We're still keeping an eye on them, but we really feel confident that they're in a good place. While a few months ago, not so much, we're putting the effort, we've been working together with the student and parents. We feel fairly comfortable with that. Again, we're not just simply saying, okay, we'll see you later, but we feel confident. The second tier, the middle group of about 14 or so students, these are kind of our on-watch students. So we've seen growth, we've seen progress, and we're pleased with that. However, it's not the kind of progress that we'd like to see. So while quarter 3, which is just closed, we saw the growth. In particular, we're usually watching these 1 to 2 core academics, usually in math or in English, potentially in history, where we're saying, okay, quarter 3 was better, great job. We need to continue this effort, if not put a little more in. But when we look at your other quarter grades, we see that there's no kind of cruise control here for 4th quarter. You need to maintain this effort, possibly do a little bit more all the way through to the end. Like I said, the good news is that we think with the team focus with the teachers, the content teachers, the guidance counselors, administration, and the parents, with the in and after school supports, the students know that we're supporting them. They also know that they need to do their part. That there's a piece that when they're in the building, in their classes, in these supports, they need to be putting in the effort. And for this group, we're seeing that. So that's why for this middle group, we're kind of cautiously optimistic that they're going to get there. We need to maintain these supports, but we feel mostly confident. Then there's our third tier, our 10 to 12 seniors right now that we are most concerned about. These are our most at risk. They are not doing well in usually multiple classes, although not always. But the reason we're kind of most concerned is we're not seeing the response to the interventions we can do. So the letters, the calls, the multiple meetings with the parents, the check-ins almost daily with the counselors and the teachers. I mean, our teachers are sometimes walking to other teachers' classrooms to say, you need to get this in. And there's often some hidden challenges with these students that make it difficult. And in the moment, these are students that are respectful, they get it, yes, okay, no, I need to get that paper, and I need to get that annotated, but unless you're right there with them every step of the way, it's a challenge to receive a response in return. So we're kind of doubling down on this third group in particular. The week before break, this week, we're calling the parents in again, and we're really getting down into the nitty-gritty on the particular assignments and trying to identify for these students, is there something we're not doing? Is there something we're missing? Is there something else that with the teacher? Oftentimes the students are saying, not in particular, that it's hard, that school's hard, and there's oftentimes there might be a family issue or something else that's been going on that just makes it difficult for them. And so our main message to them is that, okay, it's not like we're saying too bad here, or all hope is lost, but that you need to be in school every day. So that for some of these, attendance is an issue sometimes, just getting to school, and then not only being here, all right, every single class is so critical, every minute of every class. And you need to be in that in-school support, and you need to show up after school. These are the students that we, in some cases, will walk them to the after-school classroom to work with the English or the science teacher. They stay for a few minutes and then they just, not always, but this is the challenge. And sometimes too, it's a challenge with these students to make, or I should say, maintain the contact with the parent or the guardian. It's interspersed, we get glimmers of a few days where we get engagement with the family, and then things kind of fade out for a few days. We don't give up, we try, whatever, emails or another person that we haven't thought of, and then it might spark up for a few days. So, we're not happy that any of the students are in the place that they're in. But I can say that really due to the team effort, I can't stress that enough, with the teachers, the guidance counselors, and the engagement with the families, we are seeing the response with many of them. Again, we're not happy that it's even one student, but with this last group in particular I discussed, we are really doubling down our efforts to get the families in. And just to see, sometimes it's reaching out to outside agencies, other professionals in the community or outside the community to say, can we help you make contact with somebody? If there's another issue here that's not necessarily school, that we think would then help that student, what can we do? It's the challenge of the work we do to some degree. But that the support from the school committee and central admin, these in-school supports in the after-school, we have seen progress in these interventions. So we wish it was working for 100% for all of them immediately. It doesn't quite work that efficiently, but that we feel confident that the supports are happening. So
Thank you.
we'll obviously keep this a real approach to continue with the next few.
I would just, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yep.
Mr. Ashley, how much time do they have left approximately? Do they have, the seniors? Is it like 6 weeks maybe?
Yeah, it's about
I'm just
6
figuring,
weeks.
I'm
Yeah,
counting my
I think-
head
and
May
we-
1st
we-
right now.
You're not giving me that much.
It's
Is it
about 6 weeks.
6 weeks for them, right? Because they're a little shorter.
Right.
I was just going to add, when the conversations I've had with guidance and the department heads, one of the recommendations I gave to Chris and his team is that they form a couple of committees. One, I called it an attendance committee, you could call it whatever you wanted, is to look at why kids aren't coming to school. Because a sizable number of the kids that are on that list have attendance issues of more than 15 days absent. And from talking to Chris and the team, and I'm oversimplifying, but in general, there's the category of mom and dad struggle to get the child to school, wants the child in school, the child doesn't want to go to school. You know, you have that back and forth. The second bigger group is there's no support from home, and the child has difficulty coming to school. So you have that two groups. What we don't have is capacity to go to the home and interact with the parents or guardians. And and again, I'm kind of getting ahead of where one of the recommendations I think is going to be, is that we look at, you know, we talked about what can we do, and I'm putting the cart before the horse here, but one of the things is we have to find a way to reach out to these kids and what other schools are doing, because this isn't just a Tiverton issue about kids in attendance. It's a high school issue.
And that's those 10 to 12 students?
Yeah, very
Primarily, as it shook out, it seems to be that core group. We also have attendance issues. Chris summed it up pretty good, as far as, you know, even when they come to school, do they stay all day? You know, so but we don't have any capacity as a district. We never have. We've never had social workers to go to the home or outreach workers. And those are some of the things in the coming months. I think you're going to see those, whether or not we can do anything, but I believe those are going to be some of the recommendations. And another area of concern for students that guidance has shared with me is that we have a lot of, and that's not guidance at the high school, but at all levels through my meetings with the teachers, kids with so many emotional issues, not necessarily special needs, but just issues that are keeping them from focusing on school. And that our system is taxed. The guidance is taxed. Our school psychologists are taxed because they take up and demand so much time. Our folks can't do the other aspects of the job. So those are some of the things that you'll be seeing, I believe, as far as things that we're going to need. And again, a lot of it's just not high school center. We're talking the high school tonight. But through my conversations with teachers at all levels, that I've heard that loud and clear, elementary, middle, high, that's an issue that we have to somehow try to address in the coming months or year.
Yes, thank you. Just to relate, the attendance committee has been meeting in the next week or two. They're going to look at some kind of formal recommendations. And to speak to the social emotional piece too, it is a significant.
And I also, the second area where I recommended Chris and his committee look at is to form a scheduling committee to see if a new schedule would be able to provide more supports for kids based on how the schedule operates. You know, right now we have a 7-day or a 7-period block, but only 6 meet on a day. They rotate, there's 50 minutes, there's that 180-minute block. You know, do teachers want more time with the kids, whatever. How is the high school, you know, do they think what they're doing now is great? Maybe they'll come to that conclusion. But it's possible that maybe we look at how we deliver instruction, time-wise. For example, and I'm not promoting anything, but for example, if you can offer more periods in a day, more course offerings for students if you had block scheduling. If you had, for example, if that's something the high school wanted to do, on day 1 you offer 4 classes, and then on day 2 you offer classes 5, 6, 7, 8, and you rotate them so you get 8 classes during the course of the year versus just 7. It's those kind of things that I think they can look at and maybe come up with some ideas on how to change the delivery model.
Yeah, and that last piece of
And they may not. They may say this is what we want, and that's fine too.
on the scheduling committee piece, I think it is something we want to look at. I think right now we are, rightly so, really focused on the seniors.
Absolutely.
And kind of that capacity, but then certainly late spring this year into through next year, we're going to be taking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mrs. Black, Mrs. Pavo? No? No?
Could I ask that the committee take 8B? We have Mr.
Actually,
Roach.
before we just move on to that, Deb, did you have any other questions?
It's not, at what point, though, I mean, especially you're looking at a high school senior, and I'm all for all the supports and everything we can do, at what point do you say you have to take some responsibility as well?
Now,
You mean the student?
The student. I mean, at some point, I mean, we want to reach everyone, we want to help everyone, but at what point, you know, especially you're talking about, you know, 17, 18-year-olds, that, you know, you have to invest in it too. And you don't want to get to a point, I don't think, that all of your investment is being taken away from the other hundreds of students that are here, that are doing what they need to do, that are, and I don't think that's what we're doing, but I just wonder if there's, you know, a point where, you know, what's the tipping point? You know, you have to invest back. I mean, we can't literally go to your house, pick you up every morning, sit you here. We can't feed your stuff. I mean, you do have to have an element of you want to be here. I think that you're right in that there's a lot of things going on that we don't understand that get in the way of that. But, you know, I would think there's going to be at least a small percentage that, like it or not, they're just not going to invest back.
Well, again, just speaking when I was principal, and I don't think it changed all that much, you would make these Herculean efforts. We never had the in-school tutoring or the after-school tutoring. But in spite of that, everybody would work, you know, do everything possible, but all the message was, and I remember having them with a number of students, you have to be the one that does this. If you come, you do your work, we'll get you through. I mean, but that's the contract, and Chris highlighted that. And unfortunately, every year, you have a half a dozen to, and I'm just thinking back to when I did it, 6 to 8 students who just, you know, they didn't want to do the senior project. They didn't take a final that they had to, they had to just show up for finals. They wouldn't show up, so, and they wouldn't graduate.
And I'm
That's
happy
the-
to hear
and that's the
we're
consequence.
making
You know, at that
Herculean
point.
efforts to.
And that's, but in the end, that, you're right, it's up to the child, the student, they're not children at this point, young adults, to make the right choices. We're providing the support, in other words, we're providing the water now, and we're bringing the horse to the watering hole, now the horse has to drink.
You're right, but you're talking about 6 to 8, but we're talking about 30 something.
Well, yeah, no,
kids
that's,
over here. This is-
no, I
this is
definitely.
extreme
Well,
number.
let's
This
look
is-
at that number.
Well,
That
because we
number
went
is-
from 38 now down to 10,
Right.
12. That was my.
Hopefully,
that was
hopefully,
my-
But,
we're
and
going
again,
down
but
that
can we
much.
also put this in perspective? We've had students in the past, we never had public discussions about students at risk.
True, we didn't.
So I just,
There's always been a number of them.
absolutely.
But in any event, I'm happy to hear, it sounds like things are going very, very well. We've made a lot of progress, and you've got sounds like some great things put in place.
we do. There is still much work ahead of us.
Yes.
But, and to your point, there's a balance. Right? The students have their ownership of piece of ball.
Mrs. Borges, you're right in my line of sight. Is there- you can pretend you're not here if you'd like, but if you have anything to add, we'd be more than happy to hear from you. But thank you, Ms. Rash.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
I only have one thing to add, and that is that we are most likely gonna have double what we normally don't as terms of not graduating.
Yeah.
So normally 3 on a good year, once in a while we have 5. We, as counselors, have identified 10 that we are most certain are not going to make it mathematically. And hopefully the other 20 can pull it through.
Yeah.
So we are hopeful for those 20, but it is concerning that we've doubled the number. Is it a coincidence that we got rid of general classes for this?
Yeah, we won't
you
really
what I
know.
mean?
Yeah.
Or is it just the
Yeah.
class
The class,
That
yeah.
class, that's
Yeah.
not strong enough.
Well, I think we need to come back to that question at some point
I agree.
in the near
And then
future.
once we get through next year, at this point next year, if the number jumps back down to 3 to 5, we know
We'll
what
have an
the cause
answer.
might be. If it's
Well-
still highs like this, then we need to reevaluate
Yeah.
what's going on.
I'm hoping to have that discussion before this time next year.
May,
Before this time.
yeah.
No, absolutely. I would think
By the way.
winter we
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to be able to get a handle on it.
No, that's great.
Okay, all
Okay,
right.
that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You need a hat and glasses or something?
Do you want to go to D, 7D?
All right,
8B, Mr. Roach from First Student is here.
okay.
I'll make a motion that we move up 8B.
All those in favor?
Yes, just for the folks in the audience, the committee and myself have received a number of complaints from parents over the past month due to a lack of bus drivers, particularly Bus 10, which would create shortages, bus shortages at the middle school, and then at Pecasset, students would be doubled up, and the bus routes were very long. It's also upsetting parents, some of who are here this evening, and they probably can speak to it better than I can, but upsets parents' work schedules because they all had to be shifted because of the later bus routes. I spoke to the bus manager at First Student, Ms. Del Toro. She explained to me what the situation was. I explained to her what our issues were. I then contacted Mr. Bill Roach, who's here tonight. He's the First Student General Manager. We had a conversation about what we were seeing down here. Bill explained to me, told me what First Student, what their problems are. It's more of a statewide issue, which I'm sure he'll speak to, and what First Student's trying to do to address it. So I felt it was probably best, I said to him, it's probably best that you come and speak to the committee and tell everybody what he told me. So I'll ask Bill to come up and
Sure.
just address the committee and
Okay,
kinda
welcome.
explain the situation.
Good evening. I just have a quick presentation, and stop me at any point, but I try to give everybody as much information as possible, and I can ask questions at the end if that works well. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity tonight, and just to introduce myself, Bill Roach, I'm the general manager of First Student, responsible for the Rhode Island area and a little piece of Connecticut. I've been with the company for 14 years, and I've been in transportation for 32. Just a quick overview on our company. We operate in 39 states in Canada, and we operate about 47,000 vehicles. In Rhode Island here, we service 13 of the school districts, as well as the statewide contract, which is the out-of-town district transportation. We operate approximately 725 routes each day and employ about 1,300 employees in the Rhode Island area. Regarding the driver shortage, we take full ownership of it. We understand it's our problem. We've taken many steps along the way to reduce this shortage, and I just want to kind of take you through that. I came to First Student in 2003, and we were in the midst of a similar driver shortage. It's when the unemployment rate drops, ultimately it hurts our business because we're a part-time industry. So we've now hit about a 10-year low in unemployment in the state of Rhode Island of about 5%, 5.3%, and it is certainly affecting us. So, but from a recruitment standpoint, to hiring practices, to training, and ultimately licensing employees, we've done a lot of work behind the scenes and really trying to beef up our recruitment efforts. So we've managed to bring our average starting wage up is to about $18 an hour in all of our locations throughout Rhode Island. And in many of our locations, top rate is $20, $24, $25 an hour. So it's very competitive in the part-time industry. Right here in Tiverton, we work with the AFSCME union, and we just negotiated a contract with them last year and increased their rates significantly to try and retain our drivers and obviously, limit turnover. Currently in Rhode Island, we're about 110 drivers short, and this is not a First Student only issue. It's our counterparts. I talk actually on a regular basis with some of the folks in my capacity at Durham and DACO and Ocean State, who are our competitors here in Rhode Island, and they're encountering the same issues. One of the things that's unique about Rhode Island is TDI, temporary disability insurance, and unfortunately, on any given time, we have about 6% of our workforce out on TBI, which is affecting not only our entire state, but certainly here, right here in Tiverton, where we have 4 drivers that are out on LOA currently. We went through a peak of shortages back in mid-February. Since that time, we've made some great strides and we're down to about 110. Again, right here in Tiverton, we're about six drivers short. And that is not that we don't have 6 runs covered. That's simply six drivers to get ourselves to full complement plus a spare ratio. In other words, to cover daily absenteeism, to cover sporting events, athletics, that type of coverage. We are currently 2 in training, 2 applications in process, and like I said, 4 on LOA, with the hopes of getting some of those folks back. In addition to that, not including in the coverage, we'll get 2 casual spares. They don't work every day, they might not work every morning, every afternoon, but they are on call and do work for us, as well as our driver, our manager, and our dispatcher, both sometimes forced to drive in short situations, which we've encountered. Some of the recruitment efforts that we've done, and I won't take you through them, but very comprehensive as far as recruitment from a company-wide standpoint, at our top level in Cincinnati with our headquarters. We've done some billboards, bus stops, radio advertising, movie theaters. But some of the things that we try and do locally, we'd like to see is trying to have a partnership with the district, being able to send out some recruitment flyers, whether it's through the schools, hard copy, paper copy, or I know a lot of times that those flyers are sent out electronically via email. Also working with PTOs, trying to engage some of the membership in the community, come back to work, maybe folks that aren't working, encourage them as a part-time job. So we have recruitment teams here in Tiverton. Sherry and her team have gone out to the football games, have done local markets where they do the little pull tabs, and they've been set up tables, various markets in the community, and try and gain some interest there. So we've done a lot of things outside. Right now, we have about 56 people in Rhode Island in training, which is a pretty high number for us. We average usually about 35 or 40. So we've beefed up our efforts. We're currently having what we call a mass screening and mass interview process every single week. Anybody who applies to a bus driver job, we're seeing about 25 to 40 per week, which is actually great numbers, from the actual screening process. We take those folks, we get them in a classroom setting, we take them through what the job is, what it entails, the steps in order to become a bus driver. Kind of wean out anybody at that point, and it's not really for me, it's not something I'm not interested in, and at that point, we'll screen them and we'll interview them if we haven't steered them away, ultimately. In Rhode Island, we have 2 training center managers, one down here in the East Bay, based out of Warren, and then one in Warwick. Each one of those training facilities has their own set of trainers. So we have about 8 full-time trainers and 21 part-time trainers in the state of Rhode Island. We're taking folks from Massachusetts and Connecticut, also coming into Rhode Island to help with our shortages. Like I said earlier, about 45 to 50 folks out on LOA, which represents about half our shortage. So if some of those folks came back to work, our shortage wouldn't be as significant. We've been working with the DMV, CCRI, and the state of Rhode Island. And those are the 3 state agencies that we deal with in regards to getting folks through the licensing process. The licensing process is very comprehensive. Our training alone is about 50 hours of in-class and on-the-road training. We really feel it's the best training in the industry. Unfortunately, we rely on many state agencies to get those folks through. One, Rhode Island is one of the only states that actually requires drivers to go through a mandatory CDL class. That's one facet that they have to go through. And that's only offered once a month at CCRI. So in February, they made a decision not to have the class. That essentially took us back behind the 8 ball by about, in my opinion, 45 to 60 days by eliminating that February class. So they had one in January, eliminated February. The next one wasn't until the week of March 13th to the 17th. So we ended up backing people up in queue that were ready to get through that CDL class and then ultimately be road tested. And the road testing portion is the final piece. It's just like when you get your own license, you go to the DMV, you take a written test, you get your permit, and then ultimately you go through our training, internal training, you go through the CDL class, CCRI, and then finally you schedule your road test. Right now, the state's booking about 20 to 30 days out for a road test. So if I'm complete training, and I'm ready to go, my trainer has signed off on me, and I'm a safe bus driver, it's gonna take me 20 to 30 days to get a road test. It's really the final leg, and ultimately, you know, now we have about 25 people in queue waiting for that road test. We actually had someone yesterday apply for their road test, and they were given May 20th. So our resources are working with the political liaison in Rhode Island, working the channels, and we think we've identified the issues at the DMV, and the DMV actually worked in conjunction with us, or heard not only for students' concerns, but also the other school bus contractors in Rhode Island. We feel that we've made very, very good progress there. Unfortunately, we're not making that same progress now at CCRI. CCRI is not only responsible for that CDL class, but also ultimately responsible for the road testing. So we have beefed up our efforts. We've taken it to the Rhode Island Department of Education. We've taken it to Cindy Brown. We've taken it to the Chief of Staff at the Governor's Office. And it is now risen to that level because it's affecting every school district, every school committee, every student in the state of Rhode Island. And we can't get people through the system, and now they just end up backlogging. And many of those folks, they find out it's going to take them 2, 3, 4 weeks to get a road test, they might find another job. So it is hurting us. We are working the political channels. Certainly your support would greatly be appreciated. This is unfortunately not the first time I've had this conversation. You know, we're working hard and truly are. We brought on numerous trainers and obviously bringing resources in from out of state to try and correct this current driver shortage. I wish I could sit here and tell you by X date, you'll have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new drivers in Tiverton, but having that backlog at the road testing choke point is putting us, it's tying our hands. We have, like I said, 56 in training, probably half of those are ready to book their road test, but now that we've seen the pattern that we're 3 or 4 weeks out, it's very discouraging. It's going to be very discouraging for the trainees as well. So, again, I can take you through the training, but I think I probably talked long enough at this point. So, are there any questions?
I have a question, but I don't think you'd be able to answer it, and I don't know if Deanne, you can answer it. Why is it bus 10? I mean, that's the shortage, that's the driver, right?
That's correct.
So there can't be an adjustment made. It is what it is, it's bus 10.
We eliminate, sometimes they run bus 10 at the middle school, but eliminate it for Picasso.
When we get to the
So
town.
just don't have the
Creates a split,
driver?
Or sometimes there's nobody. That bus 10 gets eliminated. from
So then
middle
those
school.
kiddos have to be put on other
It happens.
buses.
You know, they call, Sherry calls us, the bus manager,
Right.
and tells us, so, it's kind of like a daily, it's like getting an absent report
Yeah.
of sorts. But it does seem, it is, I don't know why, maybe
Yeah.
no opinions, I don't know.
Yeah, why is it just that one bus?
I think it's, from what Sherry told me, Sherry would have been here tonight, she's not feeling well. She's been just ill. From what I understand, bus 10 is being covered, I think the middle school portion by a dispatcher, and then the other 2 portions are what they call split up, divvied up among the other routes.
Those other routes.
So it just tends to be an easier bus to split.
And
Yeah.
that's what creates and bus, because it's always bus 10,
Right,
it's the same set of parents and the
That
same
are-
set of children that are impacted.
right, so those are the
It
parents that
It doesn't
being,
rotate.
yeah.
And there's no way to, well, I guess, because then you'll just make it somebody else's
Right,
problem if
right.
you rotate it.
So you'll only
yeah,
have
you-
other
you just
parents who
make
are
it worse.
inconvenienced.
Right.
Okay.
There's no way of somehow adjusting 2 or 3 other routes to,
Pick up the
Distribute
rest.
it.
Looked at it, and I know Sherry and
Right.
Michelle worked very hard trying to find the best way to impact the least amount of students.
And I know they're driving sometimes when
Lots
they're
of times
more,
they're covering
yeah,
uh,
I know that they do that.
of other people who may be sick on a given day.
in past years, we've had the opportunity, we actually have a daily coverage call, and we have all the location managers from each district that we service, and a kind of cost trading situation. It's about a 10 to 15 minute call and try and pool our resources. So some locations might be in a more favorable position than others, able to share resources. Unfortunately, right now, this shortage is really hurt us across
It's
the board.
hurting everyone.
Yeah.
But I guess, so we can't take those students and just put them on other buses and change those routes? Since it only seems to be that one.
You'd have to ask, I'm not the.
You don't know.
I'm where you are.
I can say
'Cause that
bus
was the
scheduling
question.
is more, I think, more complicated than scheduling.
High school? Oh, okay.
It is
It's
crazy.
very involved with the tiering system. It becomes, when you have a shortage situation, it becomes more prevalent in the afternoons. In the mornings, in the afternoons, in the mornings, you're just dropping students off. Pick the students up, dropping them off. Where in the afternoon, the tiering of the bell times as they go through the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school, tends to be a little more difficult. Obviously, there's loading time involved. Takes longer for children to, go to their lockers.
So you
get their
can't
books,
just
get
take
their
those
stuff.
30 kids and say, I'm gonna do 10 here, 10 here, and 10 here.
Well, that's
Might not be
ultimately
30
what we
though.
do. Yeah.
It makes the bus routes much longer,
Yeah.
and so.
'Cause
I
then
had
there's,
kids
yeah.
showing up at Tiger Cubs at 4:45.
4:45
Oh, wow.
sometimes.
On some of the days when they were, so it extends.
And they're there for 15 minutes, and then they're,
Even
yeah.
adding, splitting the buses right now. like
Doesn't
we're
work.
doing, It helps, it gets the kids home, but it doesn't get them home in the reasonable hour by,
Which is why we probably had the additional bus to begin
Yeah.
with. Right.
So, eliminating it would just, now this would be a permanent situation.
Okay. Do any members of the public have questions or understand this better than I do?
Come up and just introduce yourself and let us know.
My name's Jennifer Jocelyn.
Hi.
I have two students in public school district. I have a middle schooler and I have a first grader. Where I can totally understand the point where there is a shortage, at this point, I find that this is unacceptable. We've paid an exorbitant amount of money for the contract with the buses, and our students are not being serviced. We have no notification in the morning that they're gonna be picked up late, that their bus is running on time, bus is not running on time. In addition, as working families, we've adjusted our schedule to get children to bus stops, to get ourselves to work. There's only so many times you can tell your employer,
I'm gonna be
the
late.
bus is running late.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, there's confusion for the students. When they split the bus, my daughter's bus, sometimes she's on one, the bus is packed by the time she gets on it. She's being forced, as a fifth grader, to sit with seventh and eighth graders. She's not comfortable, and she doesn't want to ride the bus anymore. In addition, as much as I know you're all trying to change patterns to drop the students off, that is another hullabaloo to now I'm not going to let her ride the bus, I'll take her, but now here's another portion of my morning that I can't get through the school line to get her there if I choose to drive her. The afternoon issues, they've been great in trying to communicate that, but we have doctor's appointments for students, we have after-school activities, my husband works evenings. He's reported to work late a number of times because of this issue. We get the call, we have to wait for him to come home. But how many times do you have to explain to your employer, I'm gonna be late because of the bus? I understand that they're saying there's a shortage and there's nothing they can do for employment and there's people out on TDI. What are we supposed to do as parents to explain to our employers? I feel like the contract's been paid, there was a huge increase. And the other thing I do have to kind of say is, there's been a couple of times where we as parents have been directed to contact the bus company with our complaints and with our issues, and I don't think that we should have to do that. The bus company would call, there's a voicemail there. We've called at some points to say, where are our children? There's no one there.
Yeah, because sometimes
There's no one there to
she's
answer the phone.
driving.
And I don't think that I, as a parent, should have to bring my complaint to the bus company. I think that as a school district, we've hired the company, they're not fulfilling their obligations, and that it should be addressed. And according to the presentation that was just been made, it doesn't even look like it's going to be done by the end of the school year. We can't go another 6 or 7 weeks. So we need to have that kind of resolve. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just to confuse you, my name is Jocelyn Sherman. Jocelyn, sorry. Pretty much echoing what Jen said is, we managed our work schedules according to these times. I have a daughter at the middle school, I have a daughter at Cassett, my third grader's doing box, awesome program. She has to be at Cassett at the same time as my middle schooler, who doesn't want to ride the bus anymore because she has to sit with eighth graders. And I understand that, and I'm not saying any eighth grader has caused any trouble, but she's in fifth grade, they're totally on opposite ends of the spectrum developmentally. I'm not comfortable with that, I respect that she wants to ride to school, I support busing, I want my kids to take the bus, but it's so unpredictable. Is the bus showing up at 7:30, is it showing up at 7:40, is it showing up at 7:45? Audrey's bus 2 weeks ago showed up at 8:46, school starts at 8:50. So the variability we can't plan for. My childcare providers who pick up my kids after school are very frustrated. They're senior citizens. I don't want to send them to Cassett to get into the Walker pickup line. It's too much. It's too busy. I don't want to put that on them. But they're waiting at the bus stop till 4:15. They live a mile from the school. So I understand your plight. I understand TBI, medical leaves. I'm a manager. It's frustrating. You have people out of work and you have shortages. You still have to deliver that service. And I think part of what's frustrating is that there is no service recovery. When you call for a student, you can't ever get anybody. And I understand that sometimes they're on the road and they're driving, but no return phone calls, no return emails. There's got to be some element of responsibility to say, you know what, I had 10 parents call me today. At some point, I'm going to get back to them. No phone calls, no return emails. So that's the frustration. And when I reached out to First Student, I didn't even know if that was the right thing to do. I was just a frustrated parent, and Dan Riley's been awesome. She tells us every single time that there might be a delay, always. So she's done her part, and so I figure I'll reach out to First Student because I don't know what else to do. I sent a letter to Mr. Rearick. I don't know what the chain of command is in terms of this busing issue because it's a contract with the school department. I'm just looking for a little sense of urgency, some service recovery, something to give us some hope that our kids aren't going to be shuffled around for the rest of the school year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, come back up. So hearing that, I mean, I guess we are gonna look to you, because we did have a huge increase. I remember sitting on a
2 years ago.
stage talking about that huge increase. It was a big hit to us that year, and I do think they're absolutely right. There's an element of service that, you know, when you make a phone call or you send an email, I would expect, without having the school committee to get involved, I would expect there would be a response. But more importantly, what do we do? I mean, we have to be able to put our heads together and come up with a solution to, you know, the rest of the year, because you're right, 6 weeks of maybe they'll come at 4, maybe they'll come at 4:15. I mean,
And then it's
what
the
can we
morning,
do?
too.
The way at least the communication piece, you know, could improve is, knowing which buses are gonna be affected that day, sending an email or picking up the phone, having somebody send out a robocall. And I don't know how your system works, if you can designate it by bus.
If we know about it, we can send it out.
Or by school, so sometimes that's.
Or
the
even
case
by
where
school,
We
yeah.
can do it by school, we can do it by district, we can tailor it. We just need to know it.
We can do it by bus, but sometimes we don't get notified until 2:45, 3 o'clock. And then I can't get it out in time for my parents.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we can be more proactive and certainly make that phone call and be able to send that communication out. Unfortunate circumstance would be a call out. From a staffing standpoint and a recruitment standpoint, I think we have the pieces in place. Again, it's just a matter of time to get those folks through. And because we're at the mercy of the state of Rhode Island and those agencies, we can only bring people to the goal line. We need the state to push those over. So any political influence, and you could raise this towards the ride, you know, certainly anything that you can do to push this issue in behalf of us. And again, I take full responsibility. It's our problem. I get that. You know, our main prerogative is the safety of the students, and truly that is the core value of our company.
I don't even know, would it be helpful at all to know in the morning? Like you said, that you know, would it be helpful at all to know in the morning that, you know what, no, we're gonna be,
How do you live wishy-washy like that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
We'd have to have a proverbial snow call every day.
yeah,
We don't have
Yeah.
those all,
Yeah.
people on call to pick kids up. And it doesn't seem like there's a resolve even being offered at this point. It's just like, we're gonna go with the flow for the rest of the week.
well, and what I'm hearing is we simply don't have drivers.
Now, regarding, again, that, when I talked to Bill, that's why I asked him to come, because I can't create the, I mean, I don't know how to solve the problem if we
Yeah.
don't have drivers available. I mean, we can obviously work with Bill on improving communication, you know, with parents and getting information. We can get it out as soon as we get it, but we're relying, not to put Bill's company under the bus, but we rely on for a student to tell us
So to speak.
when there's an issue. And we, as soon as they call us, we call our schools and tell our principals, you know, there's an issue. But that doesn't help the parents,
Right.
because, again, if we have 18 buses and we have 16 drivers, or whatever the number is, I think it's 18 buses and 17 drivers, I don't know, for a student would, I don't know how they solve it, because I certainly don't know how. I can't just hire somebody.
Yep, go ahead.
One of the things that we've heard at meetings is that ridership is down and kids are not riding the buses.
Yep.
So tagging on that comment from the committee, why are we having this issue because there's not a lot of students on?
Well, that, at the elementary, our buses are quite full.
Yeah.
Same at the middle school. The high school, you're absolutely correct. High school, there are fewer students, but even if we combine the high school runs, we still have the same problem. We don't, there's not enough drivers.
It all boils down to the elementary. You don't see the ridership at the high school level because students are driving as the year goes on, students become involved in the after-school activities, athletics. At the middle school level, it's a little more, but certainly those buses are probably running at 50-55%. But at the elementary school level is where you need all the resources and all the vehicles to be able to transport the number of students that you have.
And there's no way, I guess that's the question, is there's no way to combine buses at the high school so that we could free up a driver for...
It wouldn't impact, again, my understanding is it wouldn't impact the middle school or the elementary runs. Because the high school, you drop off at a certain time or you pick up at a certain time. And then, let's say they don't do that, they still can't start at the middle school sooner. And
No, they still get out at a certain-
they get out at the set
Right.
time, so.
It's all three tier system, the high school, the middle school, the
Oh,
elementary. So
and it's
obviously
the
high
same
school-
drivers.
Yeah.
Right, so even if you combine as he
You
said,
still aren't, you're not gonna free anybody
You're
up
not gonna
because
free
they're
anybody up.
already driving some...
You need all of those drivers and all those vehicles and those resources at
that time.
3 to 4 o'clock.
And if
time.
anything, we probably, I think that's how it works, we have less drivers that work the afternoon runs because we don't, the high school runs because we don't need them.
Yeah.
So it isn't gonna help because you know,
And this is the peak season for athletics as well, at that peak time between the hours of 2:30 and 4 o'clock. And we've actually worked with the Interscholastic League, trying to push off, make those games later.
so that you can have the
Try and
drivers.
Stop those games instead of 3:30 start, a 4 o'clock or a 4:30 start. And again, that was not just us for a student, that was the industry going to the Interscholastic League and say, hey, there's a driver shortage and there's gonna be problems. You know, we anticipated this back in January. Believe me, it's disheartening. We've been here before, it's been 10, 11, 12 years since we've been here, but we've been here before when we have all our resources, all full-time staff, anybody who has a license to drive a school bus is driving. And we've had, in past years, we've had the luxury of pooling our resources from local
And you're
bases.
seeing this statewide and in the other 12 districts?
Adjusted.
No. How come?
To have somebody in their office to get the phone.
So it's just, it's unique to Tiverton?
No.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
I said, are we seeing this in the other 12 districts and statewide as well?
Speaking to
I thought
my,
you said yes.
speaking to 2 of the 3 superintendents on the island, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
They have the same problems.
Oh,
They've talked to, I know, the governor's office, so we've kind of linked that
No,
together
no.
between the governor's
No.
office and the ride. what those talks have been behind closed doors, I don't know. I don't know the outcome of that, I don't know what the, if there's been anything. I know RIDE, because we service 180 school routes
Yeah.
in Rhode Island under the statewide program, they're aware of our concerns and our shortages.
Have you considered bringing on temporary drivers to bridge us through the training process and offering maybe a higher rate to attract more of them?
Just temps.
We've done everything, Doug. We've taken, everyone who has a license to drive a school bus. Unfortunately, we can't bring people in from out of state. The state of Rhode Island wouldn't allow a Massachusetts licensed school bus driver.
Really?
School bus driver.
So, I guess that's one question I have is actually the question properly addressed to RIDE or to the governor's office or to the Department of Transportation and maybe that's part of the solution is to say, well, for a 60-day period or year period, we will allow Massachusetts and Connecticut drivers if they've passed muster.
If we could get the road test availability, that would solve our problem.
And that's
Okay.
CCRI?
I have 4 road tests this week. Next week I have none. I don't have one on the docket. The following week I've scheduled 4, and then they're all the way to May 4th. May 20th.
And who do we, yeah.
So I would think that either Rhode Island Association of Superintendents might be interested in this.
I
Is
can
that a
reach out to
possibility?
Tim Ryan and see.
And
What
maybe,
about reps and senators? Jay,
Yeah.
our reps and senators. I mean, anybody that we can get, that, this is.
They need those.
And
So
we-
that's what you need, those tests, so you can get those
I
drivers
think
on
the
the
more
road.
people that speak up and understand that it's an industry concern, it's affecting every school district in Rhode Island.
And CCRI they just don't only offer them, do we know why they're not offering them more?
Well,
Like, I'm sure
I
you've
know
talked to
too
them.
much, but they're the folks that are testers, state examiners, who are able to take a trainee on a school bus and on a road test. There's only one full-time person. That one full-time person is not only for testing every school bus driver, but also is responsible for Class A drivers going for the tractor trailer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And 2 part-time testers who can only work 19 hours a week.
So that.
And if there was more recent, we've actually funded a part-time clerk position to be able to free up that tester to be able to just test and not have to do any clerical administrative work. We funded a $20,000 position last year through a grant. And unfortunately, we didn't see much improvement.
okay. So before we get too far afield here, I think we should try and focus on some of the things we might be able to control or do actively. So maybe Mr. Rurick, if you could perhaps reach out to the Rhode Island Association of
I will contact
Superintendents.
Mr. Ryan tomorrow.
I don't know if Mrs. Black, you always have lots of things to do, but maybe reach out to our representatives and draft a letter that we could send to RIDE. More locally, a little bit of what I'm hearing is both the communication and management of expectations, and then lastly, sort of the, who's responsible for what. I appreciate that you sort of say it's your responsibility, you own it. I'm a little concerned if we're giving the message, if parents call us, we'll call the bus company. I think we probably need to be a little bit more involved in that.
We can.
Okay. But, and this is, I'm wondering about what we can actually do. It seems that we need to, rather than, maybe it's gonna happen today, maybe it's not gonna happen today. If we can figure out what's a good way of communicating with parents, and maybe we could ask some of our parents to help us with this, set clear expectations.
Sure.
We know by 7 o'clock in the morning, this is what's happening to the bus. And we as a district will do what we can to send that notification out. And it's option A or option B. Option A, everything's going great. Option B is we're down the rabbit hole. And therefore we can adjust, and same thing with the afternoon. So what's the best, and and what do we do when things are going great? I guess we do whatever we usually do, but, coming up with what are we going to do when things are bad? How are we going to notify parents? When are they going to know by, for both the morning and the afternoon? And what are the standard adjustments that get made? Okay, I know it's this day, it's option B, that's not a good day, but I know this is what's going to happen, because it's the expectations that you need to have firm expectations of your day in order to adjust to it. And then once you come up with the workaround, it's like you're able to apply that consistently. I know I can call my neighbor. I know I can, whatever you do. Everybody, we're masters at that, actually. So I don't know if there'd be an opportunity for maybe Mr. Fiore, or, sorry, to nominate you, to work with some parents and with Mr. Roche to sort of say, how is the district going to be proactive? How is First Student going to be proactive? What is the input that we can get from parents about what they need to deal with this adjustment? Because we are not, unfortunately, going to be able to, create,
Doesn't sound like it.
the drivers out of thin air.
Well,
And this seems to be a bit of a, sort of permanent situation.
Is part of the communication problem made worse because you have your office staff who are licensed drivers out on the road and no one's manning the phones in the office?
But-
Well, But wouldn't you be able to staff the office with non-drivers?
Yeah, why do you staff the office with drivers? If they're such a premium.
I guess you could pull a monitor. Essentially, anyone in our industry has a license that's driving, so.
But even a non-driver, non-monitor, yeah.
But isn't it like a secretary, receptionist, or dispatcher or something? that-
Well, they're,
Obviously, be able to answer and field those phone calls.
their manager, and the way it's set up now, their manager and assistant manager answer the phones.
All right.
Lots of times, we have trouble reaching them because they're out on the road. But I think what I heard from parents
not a
is,
driver.
they get that part of it.
Yeah.
And,
Right, and then- but then-
obviously,
okay.
but I think for a student has to say, and just from hearing what parents had to say tonight, is that we'll commit to calling people back
Yeah.
and saying, Mrs. Sherman said I called and nobody called me back. That's not what we
Yeah.
should be about. And, that can happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mr. Roach says, yep, I'll talk to my people, and, and then in the meantime, work further on, because that notification piece in the morning, I'll say it, we don't get notified, I don't recall ever getting a morning notification that a bus wasn't running.
Do you get them, Deanne?
No.
We get the afternoons.
The
but-
morning one, when the parents called me to let me know that the bus just picked them up at 8:46 and school
So,
started.
again, we we're not going to be able to change, I think, too many of the givens of the environment right now. But I think we have to hear from parents what is going to work for them in terms of, when chaos is introduced. And we have to make the commitment to giving that service, really, because
Right.
that's really what it comes down
So
to.
basically, you're gonna know sooner that you're not getting your bus service then.
Well, it's an A day or a B day.
If they're short a driver in the morning, they're
No,
short a
I
driver all
mean,
day, so they
It
should
just
just
sounds like
notify
that's the
the
most
notify
we're
the-
offering is, well, we
Lane,
can at
you're
least
right.
tell you
Make
sooner.
that-
Yeah.
So
Well,
they should notify
you know,
the office, and then
it's-
you can have a.
Right.
It's,
As soon, when they have
I think, again,
it's
I
not
would
set
get
up.
with the parent group,
They've gotten better
if
at
especially, or maybe Ms. Riley, you can sort of head this up too. Because it sounds like it's a Pocasset localized a little bit.
Well, it's Picasset because of the way.
No, I understand
Well,
that.
plus 10,
Okay.
but-
But,
Unfortunately.
Potentially.
I
be
think,
any of this.
so the ideal group would be a few parents, a principal, an administrative person, and someone from First Student to sort of say, if this is what the chaos is, this is how we manage the chaos. And that's, what I know I can't do is manage the bus company, because that would really be chaos, so.
But it sounds like the best we can do is just give you more notice that there's going to be no service.
Well, what's the notice that you guys need at what time, and
Well-
how do you want to receive it?
Again, the general term, I don't want to speak, but the sooner the better, obviously, but it's still,
Right.
I agree completely, but Yeah, obviously, the sooner the
mean,
better,
I-
I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that's something, but I.
And also the commitment to,
I
the
think
people
we
will
need
call
to
them
get-
back.
We need
Yeah.
to get drivers on the roads as well.
That's the thing, on the higher level, we need to have more people to be able to
Right.
test the
Well, again-
drivers
Get
and,
CCRI
I think
moving.
that's why we reach out to our representatives that might have some leverage.
We've even given them a number. If a student, just obviously we're concerned about ourselves. If first student could get 6 road tests a week,
right,
That
2
would,
on Tuesday, 2
That
on
would be
Thursday, and 2 on Saturday.
That would be
just
good.
Consistency, knowing
Right.
that those road test appointments are there.
Right.
yeah,
We'd be out of our shortage in a very short period of time.
okay.
But the inconsistency of the road testing availability
Mm-hmm.
and the sporadic.
Not
Okay.
letting people from out of
Monday,
state,
test on
that's
Tuesday, the next day is May
that's
20th.
typical Rhode Island.
It
I hate to
just-
say
Yeah.
it.
so I think that's who should we be calling? We can all call and write, and then we can give them someone to call and write. So that we're all talking and writing to the same person saying, we need these tests now.
That's what we gotta do.
So who is that individual?
In CCRI's defense, they're underfunded. Okay, you know, they're like every state agency, as you know. But not only do they road test, they hold that CDL class. This time of year, they're doing recertification for every school bus driver in Rhode Island. Over 2,000 school bus drivers in Rhode Island. Their
With one guy?
recertification process.
Well, and I get that, but this is sort of a
insane.
temporary, we're sort of at a crisis now.
Yeah.
We're not saying staff them all all long, we're
Just one
just
guy
right
working
now.
19 hours
Yeah.
doing all this.
Hope he's healthy.
But the honest thing is, right?
They do
How about hiring another?
DWI,
To that.
testing.
One person.
Motorcycle testing. They do various things. that all
Working
fall.
19 hours a
That's
week.
ridiculous.
Working 19 hours a week.
Okay, I think there's an apparent,
I have
That's
one specific
ridiculous.
question about bus 10 at the
Must
Casa.
be political.
So we live on Russell
Yeah,
Drive.
sure.
And one of the things, the piece that I'm also having a hard time putting together is how from the Casa to Russell Drive does it take over an hour to get there? Like, if the route is being rerouted, how is it that the kids are spending such an absorbent amount of time coming such a short distance? Are they doing another route, and then when they complete that route, then doing the add-on route? But it seems like an exorbitant amount of time to get a child 2.5 miles. Even if you stretch that bus route to include it, where is the bus going outside of our
That's where that
route?
meeting would
And
come
why
in.
is it?
Yeah.
You can't
such
answer
an
that.
absorbent-
Is this when your child is on the different bus?
Well, even
When
if you combine it, like, is it combined into a route that, it seems like an exorbitant amount of time to come a very short distance when we live so close to the school?
I think when we have the meeting that
Yeah.
Dr. Larkin's talking about, these are the types of questions that, I know I can't, and I know the committee can't, but first student should be able to speak directly to those questions, and, say, this is why. It's a great question. On the face of it, I would say the same thing.
I'm like, where did you go on the bus today?
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah,
It just seems like a really long time to be on a bus. It's just
I
like
agree.
Our neighborhoods are so close together. Are we being added onto a route?
now, and again, I don't know them as well as I used to. I know where Tom's is. I mean, as far as the routes go. Some of the roads in that part of town, you can't traverse with buses. And again, I'm not saying that's the answer, but I think that the length of some of those routes, and I'm sure it can come out in the focus group, that's one of the issues. I know that because it's always been an issue. But you can't just go from point A to point B because you can't, what's the road? Is it Russell?
It's Russell.
Okay.
You can only go
Right.
from Russell, you can only go from Fish to Maine.
Right.
Or you can go across.
And you
the road.
can't do the
go
side
from
roads,
Maine.
right?
There's some ordinance that you can't
Right.
go from Maine to Fish.
Yes.
So that's a part of it,
Now we're
but
trying to
where's
mention
the,
bus.
what is the other route?
Yeah, that's a
that
great
we're
question. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know.
And the other thing with the middle school is if you're on Fish Road in the morning and they are running the 2 buses, and I know this because I was trying to catch the bus, but I was literally in between 2 buses. So now they have 2 buses working the same road, and like Samantha we live on Russell, Samantha's on the first bus that picked up at Russell, but then Jocelyn lives on Beth, and her daughter's getting on a different bus. So
Yeah.
they have 2 buses within, you're following them in the morning, they're stuck in between them. So it doesn't necessarily, I think there's something that can be, if you have to live with this, there has to be
Yeah.
some kind of look at the routes, and maybe too, like, if we've already put up with this for 6 weeks, maybe there's another route that can be affected for another period.
Yeah, again, I think, you know, you don't want me managing the bus routes either, so. Yeah, no, and I think these are the questions that I would want you to sort of bring to this group to sort of figure out, well, what's going on with the buses and what might be done to improve it, and how can we try and manage the chaos.
If we know it's not changing as much, it seems like we're running with, well, it's gonna do this today, it's gonna do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to have a longer term plan to adjust.
Well, that's
that's
what I'm
what
hoping
So
you'll
we're
be
trying
able
to
to
get to-
accomplish. Okay? Last comments?
So,
One last comment.
yeah, go ahead.
I apologize if this is not an appropriate question to ask, but it's dialogue I'm hearing in the audience, and I've heard it from other parents, so I'm just gonna be the one who asks it. I don't know the legalities of the contract between First Student and the town. Are there financial implications, being that a service hasn't been provided for 6 to 8 weeks? And I ask this because I work for a contract company at a hospital. We enter that contract, and if we don't meet certain goals, certain patient satisfaction measures, whatever it might be, we have financial penalties that
Can you
we
look
as
at
a
that?
contract.
Yeah, we have.
It's a very good question. We've already looked into adjustments for our invoices for the runs that haven't happened.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. So you two will get your information to Deanne, or she has it?
Deanne knows, I'll work,
On a daily basis.
All right,
I'll work with Deanne, we'll work with Deanne to pull the meeting together.
Perfect. Thank
And
you,
then,
Bill.
And I'll
Okay. And
contact
then
Jay
report back.
to see
Thank
what he
you.
says.
but then we'll also report back to the committee as to what was discussed
And
and.
Sally, maybe you could ask Jay that, is.
I'm gonna
is-
ask
is
him.
who at CCRI?
At the
who-
budget,
Well-
it's the budget,
who's-
yeah.
Who
But-
should we be talking to?
Who thinks having one guy working 19 hours?
Oh, I think it's
It's insane.
It's the budget. That's all it is. It's
Maybe he's
the
on
budget.
vacation.
Some kind of political
okay,
Okay.
all right.
nobody that works 19 hours
Yeah, 19 hours, if they go in 19 hours, I think that's.
and
Imagine.
certified.
Oh, that explains the 19,
That-
but let's not have two for 19 hours.
Unfortunately, like I said, I know too much.
Yeah, I think so. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Because we tried to work all.
I'm sure you
All
have.
right,
Thank you for coming.
thank you for coming.
That's okay.
The board, we do take ownership for this, and, you know, we're making some headway.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill, we'll be in touch, thank you.
All right,
Wow.
where are we?
So we're
Go
on
back to
7D,
7D.
right?
7D? 7D?
Yes, old business.
We're still on old business? All right, communication to RIDE regarding comments by RIDE employee,
Continue
7D.
some of this other stuff.
I know. Yeah.
Jerry asked that I place that, so I did. And I know you spoke, we spoke, so you might want to explain to the committee.
Do we have an update from Stephen at all? Was he gonna send a letter?
He was on vacation last week. They sent me a draft today. It's going out tomorrow morning. the
Do we
letter.
know what the gist of it is?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we talked about an exec, so,
Oh, all right.
Okay.
That's fine.
but yes,
All right,
I saw the draft today and signed off on it.
and, sorry, go ahead.
I'm wondering if, because those comments are out there, Doug, and I certainly, and Bill, and I'd be happy to help, if we could put something together, just talking about our reserves, what we do with them, and just addressing that issue, something short that we
Sure.
could maybe just send out. Not necessarily, I
Send
mean,
a
I'm
letter
not
to the
talking
editor.
about the budget, just
Just send a letter to the editors.
letter to the editor, maybe send something out through our listserv that, you know, here's what we do with our reserves, here's what our plan is, sort of address, because it is out there that we mismanaged that project, and we clearly did not. So I'm happy to help, but I just think it's important to
Yeah,
respond.
definitely.
Oh, absolutely. If you guys give, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think, if it's just consensus, we'll do that. And we'll
Yeah.
bring it back. I'll send it out
Yeah,
to everybody
send it out.
asking
We'll take a look at it.
what you think, and then.
Oh, that's fine.
And then I'll,
That's good.
Okay.
That would be good.
but Deb, if you'd like to help us,
I will.
we certainly would like your acumen with the numbers along with Doug.
So the reason actually I had requested to put this on the agenda was not just to, was in part to get an update, but as that communication or the description of the communication was used, it continued to concern me that it had taken on a life of its own in letters to the editor and in votes taken at the Budget Committee. And I sort of played around with a couple of different ideas, but I finally came to the conclusion that given the implications of the, what were essentially allegations of malfeasance, that we needed to formally ask Mr. Katz to provide any substantiation he received from the Department of Education regarding his allegations, as these were introduced into a public meeting.
Yep, good idea.
And so I would like to ask the committee if they would choose to ask Mr. Robinson to send to Mr. DeSisto a formal request for that documentation, as well as perhaps request it from the Department of Education. You know, sort of ask Mr. Katz, what did you receive? And ask the Department of Education, what did you provide?
We did do that.
Oh, you did do that in the...
We did it, it's in the letter.
Okay, so
That's
that has gone to the Department of Education?
It's going tomorrow morning.
Okay, you know, as an elected official, I
That's a good
think
idea.
it is appropriate to ask Mr. Katz the same question.
I agree.
And this...
I would do it under, if the committee
Yep.
agrees to move ahead, it would be a freedom of information request, because
Well-
he's a public official.
Right, can't we just ask him and see if he complies to begin with, or says, I don't have any?
You can. It's up to the committee. I
What
would,
is-
as a public official, I mean, we can get Steve's input, but I
Yeah.
believe because he's a public official, or it's a public body, they have to provide.
No, I understand that.
Data.
And maybe, I guess it's my, I thought Freedom of Information Act request is sort of compelling, you know, when they've refused. I was going to give him the option of
No,
refusing
because
first.
under the Freedom of Information, people, if you have the data, we have to provide the data.
Right.
It's not a matter of compelling.
Okay.
It's
So
simply, the law
Within 10
says
days.
we have
Right.
to
Yeah,
provide
got
that
it. Okay.
information.
10 days.
All right.
So, again, it's up to the committee,
I would go then under, you know, whatever,
whatever Attorney Robinson.
yeah.
That if he made a request of right, I'd make a similar request of,
How we do what Steve recommends.
yes.
Whatever will compel it. So
Compel the
if, yes, whatever will compel the matter, whether it be under a Freedom of Information Act request or just a letter to the town solicitor for any documentation he received from the Rhode Island Department of Education regarding the wastewater treatment project.
Got it.
Okay,
I think you need to vote.
so can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Excuse me.
All those in favor? Any other discussion, I'm sorry. All those in favor? Okay. New business. We did A, we did B, C. I'll entertain a motion to continue C, if that is the pleasure of the committee.
So moved.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay.
We'll hear from you next month.
Okay, I'll have more stuff to add.
8D, Fuel Up to Play 60 grant. Who's that?
I will take that one. It's my memo. Pecasset School has expressed some interest in applying for the Fuel Up to Play 60 grant, which is a grant that is through the National Dairy Council, and we've applied successfully a few times at the middle school. I believe we've purchased some fitness equipment and some smoothie equipment, and Pecasset has some of the same interests in mind. It's a $4,000 grant, and I'm recommending that the committee give Pecasset School permission to apply for this grant.
Make that motion?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Very good, thank you.
I'll be back for a smoothie.
All right, 8C, District Strategic Plan, Rhode Island Diploma System, Secondary School Regulations.
Yes, at one point Deb had asked to look over that strategic plan, so we all have it and we can look it over. And the new diploma system, we'll have to keep our eye on that because we have to notify the parents by October. We have to have everything in line for that. And the multiple pathways are very excited about it. We've been fighting for this for years instead of the high-stakes exit test. So I think it's great, and we should make sure we get everything in order that needs to be. That's all. I just put it in for
Yeah,
a
thank you,
reminder
Sally.
and an update.
Can you give us a little bit more background on that?
What?
I'm not sure I'm,
The diploma system
changed.
has changed.
Yeah,
It's,
totally.
it's
Yeah.
where we used to have the test and then it wasn't.
High-stakes exit test.
But now there's multiple students.
oh, I see what you're saying.
All
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
multiple pathways.
It's just
and there's
multiple,
20
they can get.
And there's 20 credits, there's no
Okay.
more seat
That's what
time,
you're
all that
talking about.
exciting
Okay.
stuff for guidance that they won't have to do.
Yep.
Every time we came and said, can we do this, they said, oh, no,
It
we have to have
is,
seat time.
and again, it goes, it's part of the graduation requirements is that there's no testing requirement.
Right.
All
My
that,
thunder got stolen because I got put off on my monthly report. But one of the key things is going to the Riotcast, we're going to be going away from Park. You know, some people will go
Right.
cheer, yay, rightfully so, but we're just going to another assessment. Again, this is the fourth one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I've been here 19 years, 2 in the last 3 years. So I just ask folks, don't get the expectations as high as they're being promoted, because it's like, well, now we're taking the mass test. All our students, just not here in Tiverton, but statewide, are going to be like Massachusetts students. Mass, as Sally's talked about a number of times, 20 years tweaking their MCAS, and they outspend us.
Millions of dollars.
Thank you.
We
That's
didn't even want it, we're like, I don't need it.
the
Physics
money
books, I don't
that
know what
they,
to do with this.
Massachusetts, and they should be commended,
Unbelievable.
that they funded over
Yep.
the
Oh,
last
this is
2
crazy.
decades is something that never gets
Amazing,
discussed.
yeah.
They say, well, and I don't disagree, saying that we shouldn't maybe look at a different assessment tool, but it's not a magic bullet by any stretch, and it's going to be, again, another acclamation. I always say, it's like moving a battleship or an aircraft carrier. It's not something you do on a dime, but
But we just have to keep our.
but
eye on
it goes along with the graduation requirements,
Right.
because there is no test.
Yeah, and there's 20 credits, and there's a lot of different variables, which is great, just to keep our eye on it. Okay.
Okay, 8F, Health and Wellness Subcommittee update?
Yes, we had our Health and Wellness Subcommittee tonight, and we had a woman from RIDE come in that talked about the whole child, which I was very excited about, because when I went to Salvi in 1967, they taught holistic teaching of the whole child, so we're coming right around to it again. And I gave it to Dr. Larkin to put on our next agenda, so we can look through it. It's really, really great.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
Do you want to go into exec without this far north?
Quickly.
Well, let's do announcements.
Yes.
Any announcements? Actually, a bit of housekeeping. So I had asked Mr. Rurick to potentially post an executive session for Thursday evening.
You did?
I did.
I haven't checked my email.
Okay.
Did you? It's usually the other way around. Did you?
Yes, it is usually the other way around, but, you know, since I'm on the chair, several times a day now, Bill.
I don't recall Thursday because we missed the,
Well, we need the 48 hours.
right.
So we have
I
to
don't-
meet at 9.
It's too late.
Okay.
That's too
What-
late.
Yeah, because it's
We
past.
can give it- Yeah,
We
You can
meet
do Friday or
morning.
Saturday morning.
Saturday
Or is that too
morning.
late?
I'll have a funeral, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't see the email.
All right.
I think, well, it's going to be, we would like to have
You can meet. at-
Stephen available.
You can meet at any time for an executive session.
Can you find out if Stephen is available?
You give me the day and I'll check with him.
Oh, at this point, it's going to have to be Friday or Saturday morning.
Yeah. What time is your event?
Saturday morning better, Elaine?
Elaine, you got the funeral?
I have, but don't worry about it, because I don't even know what time it is yet, so I'll just try.
Person dead yet?
It's just,
Jeez.
so,
Oh, God.
Or I don't know, Friday afternoon, if Stephen's available. Can you find out when he's
we
available
probably
and let
should
us?
find out when he's available.
Well,
because,
he's going to ask what day.
um,
As soon as possible.
ASAP.
Okay,
Yeah.
Friday,
Friday at 3?
Yeah, if you can do Friday
whatever,
afternoon, that's
I'll
fine,
check
too.
with him,
Yeah.
if that's okay with the committee.
Yeah. Can you make Friday at 3, Elaine?
Yes.
Sally?
Sally?
Yeah, I hope
I
so.
can too. Yep.
I can. Okay. Other announcements?
Did you have something, Lori?
The buses put you guys under?
Because you look like you were jumping.
The mock trial, was resurrected, revived after 15 or 20 years of being
school. Christine Costa and Camille Sarah were the coaches as well as the other. And our junior division team, I think Jerry was there, Dr. Meyer a few times, thank you so much for your support. They won both competitions on April 13th and as recently as Monday, April 24th.
Oh,
So,
nice. They were very, very good.
Trial middle school junior division teams, and they're pretty stoked, great stuff.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
job.
it's a lot of fun.
Future lawyers.
Yeah,
Meet them in Tiverton.
yeah.
Just say it.
First time, was it your first time to go? Bob?
Yeah.
So is that it?
Yeah. Any other announcements? All right.
Elaine?
No, nothing?
No, you're going to put the executive session?
No, you-
We're not
you-
gonna do
sure.
executive session.
We're not
I
going to?
thought we weren't gonna do, are
We're
we
just
gonna
short
go
for a
in?
minute.
Just
She
short,
wants
just
for a minute.
procedural.
Oh, okay.
I don't have chairing.
Make a motion to move into executive session under RIGL 42465A1, job performance, character, physical, or mental health, superintendent evaluation.
But I don't have them on my list.
Second? Second.
Second.